participated in the hunting. You cook the meal, you enjoy. And the poor dog is waiting there to be given the bones and the small soup later. And this dog does not know that it can actually go and hunt on its own without this hunter. I think that's the scenario where we've left our citizens. They have the power. They can transform so many things. But sadly, that is the situation.
Are Kenya's politicians afraid? And this is not to say that all of them. When we speak generally. We're not specific to everybody. But by and large, are Kenya's politicians afraid that if Kenyans actually knew to the end of the spectrum what could actually happen if they activate the power that they actually have? Are politicians afraid of that reality?
My sister, you remember the Gen Z movement? The Kenyan politicians are afraid, extremely, especially to uninformed citizens. You saw the young people when they were advocating for accountability, transparency, and good leadership. The whole of the government was scared to the last, and you could see that at some point the president had to give very tough and good promises then to try to calm that situation. And you know, when the government is afraid, the politicians are afraid, they turn into surveillance. You've seen that the social media now are being targeted. We've seen laws that try to monitor on Kenyans. So, yeah, the politicians are afraid, and you can see the steps that they are taking. You've seen draconian laws to try to hinder the freedom, maybe of even the media, of speech, and even association, hitting into the critics. And you know, when there is a fear, an afraid politician or regime will turn into surveillance. And secondly, it will. You've seen the kind of police brutality where police are used now to target protesters, peaceful protesters. That is a sign of fear. So it's a demonstration of that fear. So yeah, they are afraid.
Of what?
They are afraid of uninformed citizenship, because when the citizens are informed, they will be exposed. And you know, an informed citizen is that you can't lie to them. You can't keep giving them promises. They will ask for accountability. We've seen nations where people have demonstrated and a president has actually resigned or left the country. So the biggest fear of a politician is to lose an election and to lose popularity. So that's the biggest fear, to lose touch with the people.
But you see, even with the fear that they exhibit, unfortunately, reality is we deal with a different generation of citizens. We deal with citizens who went to school, who understand the law, who can interpret the law, who have friends who can help them understand the law. Pretty much from the Gen Z demonstrations that we saw in the country, it is a different crop of citizenry that we are dealing with. So whether they are afraid or not, I mean, the message is already home. But you talk about what the citizenry want, right? What do Kenyans want? That the political class just do their job. If you're an MP, go represent, legislate, oversight. Simple. We talk about even the Gen Z when went to the street. It was about accountability, ending corruption, and good governance is all that citizens are calling for. Is it rocket science, or is it too difficult for the political class to just deliver, just do their job? Or is it a question of we will make it so tough for Mwananchi to move any step, any inch forward? We will reduce them to politics of tokenism so that Mwananchi is forever a beggar.
My brother, you know, Kenyans and the Mwananchi, they need very basic things. They just need a working government system, so that when I want to go to a hospital, I just go there and I'm treated. If I go to a government office, I need a passport. I don't need to know anybody. They just want we just need a working, and I want to speak because I'm also a citizen, we just need a working government system whereby it's not about who is in that office. It's not about my tribe. It's not about which region I come. For example, look at the back to school scenario. You ask me how is the new year, and on my way here, I had a conversation with a teacher who is from a national school, and the crisis back to school is a nightmare in the 21st century. How do we militarize a back to school? When you see a Minister for Interior and National Coordination telling the chiefs to go and mop up the students, there's no parent of right mind who will just keep their child at home. There must be a reason. We need to know, why are these kids not in school? Because one, you hear about this placement. In our time, it was done manually, and when it's a day school, you will just go to a school closer there. Now we have a technology, and my computer teacher used to tell me, garbage in,
garbage out.
Garbage out. So we cannot blame a computer for sending a student from Kajiado to go to a day school in Turkana. There's some basic what you call geo-referencing in a survey. Some basic things just needs to be seen. When we don't have books, publishers have not published books. It's now 2 to 3 weeks after the opening of the school. Those are very basic things, and the government sets the opening dates, is the one that pays for these books. So that's a very big challenge. So Kenyans need very basic things. The government just to put the system in place, and Kenyans are hardworking. They don't need to be given handouts. They can work for themselves.
Do you reckon that if these basic things, if the leadership of the country would just put the citizen at the center, put the citizen as a partner, as a key stakeholder in achieving this, that Kenya would be a different place? We would be even beyond Singapore, perhaps?
We have a constitution, and it's very clear, and it has assigned everybody their role, from the president to the citizen. It's not something that the government should, if they do.
It's not a favor.
It's not a favor. It is a right that the Kenyan enjoy. For example, health, education, housing, proper transparency, accountability, so that the people who are given that task, when you look for a job and you are earning a salary, there is what we call the work that you're supposed to do, that you report at this time, and there are deliverables. Every government agency has people, and these are Kenyans. They are not foreigners. They are not other superhuman beings. If we follow our constitution, for example, the issue of corruption, how many cases have been investigated and prosecuted so far? We saw the Minister for Health withholding money for SHA in certain institutions, hospitals. And now it's a crisis that you go to a hospital, you don't get drugs. But he's saying, if you don't give the people drugs, we are not going to pay you money. They have now withheld the money for those hospitals. And you saw the private and urban hospital organization complaining. A Kenyan does not know those stories. A Kenyan, I am sick. I've gone to a public institution. I need to be treated. The government is supposed to sort their mess. And if there are people who are not doing their work, there are so many qualified Kenyans who can take that job. Look at the police. I read the newspaper today that just in this January, 7 Kenyans. These are not just statistics. These are human beings. This is a brother. This is a father. This is a mother. It's somebody like me and you who have been killed by police. And police are supposed to be protectors. They're supposed to ensure the first defenders of the rule of law. And if we have those news, those are the news that we are reading, they are demoralizing. and it now puts Kenyans' life into danger. And when a Kenya is not is demoralized, is also a challenge. And I think it's high time that we just know that Kenya is not a banana republic. Our constitution, there is a spirit and letter to the constitution, and we are supposed to adhere to it, and that will benefit all of us. Very basic.
I think we're discussing in an ideal situation where we know what it's supposed to be. And that's why idealism as an ideology resonates in the hearts and minds of people who are policy planners. They say, this is the way it ought to be, and in order to get there, this is what we must do. And then we also have realists who say, you know what, this is where we are, and as a result of us being where we are, we then make decisions. We're not planning for it. With what we have right now, this is what we must do. We talk about the basic things like education and health and the run-of-the-mill things that we talk about and complain every day. But in my opinion, business, or rather government of the day, really has no business dealing with grand mega infrastructure if your people who are supposed to use these roads cannot eat, if they're sick, if they're not gone to school. Where I do agree that you should still have relations with external parties and figure out where your place as a nation is on the global map, that there are basic fundamentals that must be done for the people. If those things are not being addressed, should you be involved in these mega? I mean, we talked about the Dongokundu Road today that was finished, and that has saved people. I mean, and there's a fantastic example. It has saved people hours going from Mombasa, crossing over to Kwale, and going into Diani, for example, or coming back. That you get off the train, for example, and in 15 minutes, you are on the other side. 20 minutes, 25 minutes. So there you can see a direct example of how things like that has helped. I'm going to finish the road. You finish the road. You can see that life has changed as a result of you finishing the road. But all this other business that we spend our time talking about, and then it's not done, it wastes time, it expends people's grace. And that's when we talk about that, should government, should administrations have any business in talking about these grand things if they're not going to do them? I think it's gotten to the point where people are exhausted.
I want to give an example of the president of America, Trump. I like the way he took a bold step to actually cut aid to several organizations in Africa. Because how do we rely on foreign aid to help our mothers to deliver in hospital? How do we rely on foreign aid to secure our country, to equip our military? Is a lack of priority. And I think to answer your question, it's time that we prioritize, we measure on the measures and minor on the minors. But unfortunately, we are measuring on the minors and minoring on the majors. Because, for example, the issue of corruption, our issue is corruption. We get aid and we use that money to cut deals. Well, the little taxes that we are getting, they're supposed to help our people. Why are we still talking about issues to do with school? For example, there are no textbooks in our senior secondary schools as we speak. It's a fact. I was in a school in Kajiado last week, and as we speak, the publishers have not delivered the books to school. This is a new system of education. And education is an equalizer. It's a very basic thing, but a major issue.
Because in the first week of January is only when they released 5.6 billion shillings to print
pay a
the
debt,
books.
to pay a debt of last year. It's not to cater for this one.
To print books. 5.6 billion shillings was released to print the books that you went to look for in Kajiado and you could not find. They are being printed as though we didn't know that January was going to come and that children were going to go to school. This is what I'm talking about. That what business do you have in talking to anybody about grand thing where you're going to have super highways connecting cities to cities when your children don't have the books that they're going to go to school with in January. Do you see? As in, you could have released 5.6 billion. I mean, for golly's sake, 3 billion is being lost every day. You could have released 5 billion shillings to print these books last year because you knew these children were going to school. Do you see? That's what I'm wondering. What happens in the minds? Because I do believe that there are policymakers who do their job. They do their job. They crunch the numbers. They prepare the schedules. They are aware of the cycles. They know what to do. But there's if it's a spirit, I'm going to get spiritual. There's something that's hovering above that then stops that. Because make it make sense to me why that children are going to school in January, and that is when you're releasing the money to print the books that they're going to use to learn in that month. I honestly, I'm not being facetious, I don't understand.
And it's not just to print the books, to pay the debt that is owed to these publishers so that they can now go to a next contract. Look at the SHA issue. The counties have not received their allocation for the last 2 months, since December. So in January, we have now some counties that are going to almost 3-4 months. They are relying on bank loans. Yeah. We have a budget. We pass a budget, and there are timelines for this budget. When it starts and when it ends. So the challenge is the buck stops with the government and the president. We've seen the president since he was elected, sadly to say, he's been giving promises from bottom up. Now we are going to Singapore. And that's why I was saying, and from your proverb, we must move from promise to purpose. It's not just about, I'm going to do this. And government are run in perpetuity. You don't come and reinvent the wheel. There are ongoing projects. There are already systems. There are policies. There are laws to be followed. So my big challenge is that either we have incompetent people, or we have the wrong people in the right offices. And that's why I'm saying the focus of the citizen, when you lose focus of the citizen, then you no longer now have listen to reason. You don't listen to fact. It's like somebody who is afraid of something and he has already identified a target that this is my problem. And for the politician, their target is the next election. Their target is make money and make more money. So when you lose focus of the citizen, that's why now the sense you're talking about, you're saying there must be a certain spirit, because you're no longer going to absorb the fact, the truth. It will no longer make sense.
Tell you what, I finally cracked it.
Oh, here we go.
I understand why Monanchi is not the priority. Let's talk about education. Students get to school. Allocation of schools is a problem. A day school in Turkana, you live in Nairobi. How do you end up there? We are in the era of technology, like you say. Who slept on the job? You go to hospital, it is not working. Shine is down. Why? The leadership that you have in the country will not bother to look at the checks and balances to ensure they work, because they do not use these facilities and do. Why would they care about a public school if their children are going to international schools? They do not feel the pain, the pressure that is for a parent to have their child in school and not get the best, because they are going out of their way to ensure that their children get the best, and rightfully so. Every parent wants the best, including the members of parliament. But that is not translated to the person who has given them the opportunity to be in those offices. You want to go to hospital. A member of parliament today enjoys over 10 million shillings insurance that they can use in any hospital in this world that they want. But for Monanchi, who is being taxed to ensure that they get that insurance, goes to a public facility. They do not step there. Doctors will be on the streets every other day. These are not the very same doctors that attend to them and do.
I hear you. So I don't think it's a matter that they don't care, because in order for you to care for something, you must regard it. And I think that there's an absolute disregard for the positions in which many a Kenyan find themselves in today, because you cannot care for something that you're not even in touch with. That suffice to say that many people cannot come to grips with the realities that people are living.
Yes.
And for me, it's that classroom where there is 110 students and the teacher has to stand at the window to teach.
Yeah.
For me, it's that woman that I saw yesterday in hospital who's got to beg for space, essentially, and then bring her whole family who's contributed something to help her get a scan before they even treat her. For me, it's that person who's thinking, okay, so I've got to go to my daily grind where I'm going to earn maybe 500 shillings. I need to think about whether I will take 300 of those shillings to use on a very expensive transport system to go and come back home, or will I walk and so that I can feed my family? Those are the realities. If you want to imagine that where we may sit in a comfortable position is in the majority, it is not. The majority of people cannot afford a meal. The majority of people cannot afford the luxury of transport to or fro. The majority of people cannot afford to take their children to a place where there is space between one desk and the other. So I'm wondering who, when we're atop the vehicles and going to rallies, who are you really thinking about?
Nobody.
Who are you thinking about that you want to come and govern over, that you're asking, give me your vote so that I can change it? For who?
You see, for example, the new education system. Sadly, our JSS teachers are on contract.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know, the education is equalizer. Education is, we fought for independence so that we can take our children to school. Kufukuza ujinga.
Yes. So we can get rid of diseases.
And get rid of diseases. When we see our doctors on the streets because they are not paid well, our JSS teachers are on contract, that is lack of priority. And secondly, the economy. Basically, when you loot the government, when you loot the public resources, ultimately, we will have few people with so much and the majority with little. And that's when now you will have a country of tokenism, a country of promises. When you elect me, I will do this and this. That is a big challenge. What we need is people to do the right thing.
Okay.
And accountability. The issue here is lack of accountability and transparency. And when the Mwanainji speak and say this is wrong, that is viewed as a threat. That is viewed as noise. That is viewed as you're making noise because you need something. So we just need to put our system and learn from the other countries. What has Singapore done that now we want to go to Singapore? We need to learn that, one, they put their country first. You are not employed because of your tribe. You are not employed because of your political alignment, but because it should be that you are given a public job because of your competence and your ability and capability to deliver to the Kenyans. And whatever we do, the Mwananchi should always be first.
What's the responsibility of Mwananchi? Fine, one would say that does Mwananchi's role end at the ballot? Because at the end of the day, we elect individuals to get there to serve us, right? How then do we ensure that that mandate is upheld, that our contract with you is as we agreed? Because fine, we'll sit, we will lament, we will raise questions, we will call them out. But how do we ensure that we move? Because that's where rubber meets the road. We saw when Anji moved, they were killed on the streets. How do we keep on pushing?
Very critical question, because one, the Mwananchis should know that the president, the member of parliament, the governor is there courtesy of their vote. And the Mwananchi are actually ndio wadosi. These ones are just servants. Unfortunately, because of the illiteracy that is there, the economic challenges, Wananchi are struggling to put food on the table, so you have even no time to think what they said and all that. The Wananchi now needs to realize that the buck stops with them, and the constitution is very clear. And we have seen Kenyans going to court. We've seen presidential directives and bills being quashed in court, which is a good step towards the right direction. And we need to encourage the civil society. We need to encourage the wananchi, even the barazas. We've seen now the court saying that the public participation is not just meeting some people and signing some documents. That is a good step. We saw the Gen Zs going to the street and agitating and even storming parliament. We are better. We are moving in the right direction. They should not just think that their work is to vote and go back home. Their work is to vote, and not just to vote, but now to vote for the right kind of people. When you go and cast your vote, you are literally delegating your power. You are delegating your decision-making ability to an individual for the next 5 years. So they should not vote based on tribe. They should not vote based on political move. No. They should vote competent people. They should vote people who are able to understand their needs. And I think they have a big role. They have a big role to know that if you made a mistake the other time, it's time to correct. And that's why we have every 5 years, and they have a role. We have courts, we have barazas, which they can express their dissatisfaction, and they can go to the street. That's why the Constitution allows all that. So they should not feel helpless that now I've already given my vote, I have to wait for 5 years. No.
So there was a rally a couple of days ago coming into Sunday, Monday, and where it was a member of parliament, and she finished her submission, whatever it is that she was saying, and she then said, wacha ibaki 2 terms sababu najua tunaenda Singapore. And I thought to myself, okay, this is great, but then we seem delusional that even the message that is coming from members of parliament who are influencing people, because I don't think we realize, on the flip side, we don't realize when you have put food in the belly of somebody who didn't have, there is a certain amount of control you then have over them later on. So this whole cycle whereby somebody can give 200 shillings, you essentially control the narrative together. How do you, because people, clapped, and I thought, this is great. And it really didn't matter who it was. But the fact that we are in our heads now thinking that with a dilapidated foundation, that you can get to the place where a developed country is today. And this is the danger in something becoming sloganeerism, because now it has become a slogan. Yep. Nobody's actually thinking about what it will take to get from here to there. And, Okiam Tata says it all the time, that if you want to be like the developed, you must do what the developed did. And that you must have the foundations that they did. If you keep promising that this is where you want to go, you must do what they did. But then how do you change? You've talked about that the people must make the decision. How do you change the mind or change the reality of a people who are dependent on that thing for that day to now think differently tomorrow and say, actually, you know what? This is not the person. The one who gave you 200 shillings yesterday and you had a meal with your family, this is not the person who is going to make things right tomorrow so that I don't have to depend on that 200. How do you split from that reality?
There is a narrative of fishing. When you go fishing and I bring you a fish, there is a hell of a difference when I teach you how to fish. And I think Kenyan, because politicians are a product of the society. Sadly to say that a biggest percentage of the Kenyans are also corrupt, because they have been corrupted by our political system. One, there is no government policy called 2-term or 1-term. I've not read it anywhere. I don't think there is any bill that has been passed that is called 2-term. But when you see the people in government singing, dancing, and screaming 2-term, you wonder which government policy is that. Secondly, leadership is an opportunity, is a sacred opportunity to trust. It is actually an office where you are entrusted to act on behalf of other people. And when leaders understand that, and the Mwananchi also understand that when somebody is elected, is not put into a position of privilege, but of trust to act on their own behalf, then they are going to change the narrative. If the Mwananchi tomorrow decides to transform and to sanitize our politics, they have that ability.
Yeah.
You've seen that now, if you are given 50 shillings, 200 shillings, and then you shout, you fight each other, you abuse the other politician, you are hired as a goon to go and fight and be used, then after that, so what? So I want to challenge also the Kenyans that they need to understand that this, whatever the politicians are doing, is called political expedient for their own benefit, for their own survival. But they absolutely have no interest for the Mwananchi, and is incumbent upon the people of Kenya to wake up and make that change, to wake up and take their position. Because even if I preach to you about the rights that you're supposed to enjoy, about the privileges that you have to take the step, it's also upon Kenyans, because if you continue bashing the politicians and the Kenyan need to wake up, you don't need to be brought fish when the politicians want. You can actually go and fish and eat. If you want to eat at midnight, if you want to eat it in the morning, it is up to you, and you have that opportunity. So don't be taken ufala by the, for lack of a better word, by the politician.
It's the story of the hunting dog that you're talking about, that the hunting dog does not realize the power it has to go.
Imagine.
Speaks to Kenyans in terms of sieving politicians who come to them and asking the difficult questions in order to get the right person into that office. Kenyans are able to hunt for leaders they want and for Kenyans to change their story. Because today we also say garbage in, garbage out. What you put in is what you get out. So what is our responsibility as Kenyans in ensuring that people that we put into these offices are people who will deliver? Because that responsibility is not on the politician. It is on us to sieve and select the very best, because we say Kenya is not limited to the few individuals who exist today to rule. Kenya has individuals who can go and work, and it's upon Mwananchi to make that decision. But then again, even with the tokenism that we see go around, that we have made promises we will deliver, but you have to keep on explaining on these projects. One would say, just do your work. Don't tell us. We will tell you if you've delivered or not.
You see, can you imagine a dog protecting the owner, and this dog is the one that has killed this animal? It has not eaten. So Kenyans should stop protecting the hunters. They have the ability to hunt for themselves. They have the ability to decide whether they want a chicken, they want a cow, they want a wild beast. Because when you see, for example, we've now turned into goons. You've seen the goons being hired, or people to go and even heckle in church. Unfortunately, the more the muscle you have, and there is no politician who has gone to the market, sold their own cow, and brought the money to the people. No, these are public resources. It is the money that is supposed to go to school. This is your money that is supposed to go to the hospital. This is the money that is supposed to go to the road. And you are dancing and screaming because you've been given a share, a certain percentage of a share of what is rightful yours that has not been delivered. So if we get enlightened like that as Kenyan, I think we will transform this country. This country will change.
Do you think the folks who are hired as goons, those who are brought in as hecklers, and all these other things that we see as a menace to society, right? Do you think that if they had gainful, adequate engagement, that they would do this kind of thing?
Absolutely. Anybody who has who is busy. You remember your proverb, the Angola proverb. will be busy. You will not have no time to ask many questions. Will have no time to be ferried and hired to do all this gymnastics. If we are, you see, unfortunately, our economy is very tough. The last years, we used to, when I ask you for 1,000 shillings, you will give me very fast. Nowadays, if 3-4 people meet and you ask for 2,000-3,000 shillings, everybody will struggle. And nipatie sotano, I say, hakuna, it's not there. And if Kenyans see an opportunity that I'll go to a political rally, get 1,000, I'll put food on the table. So the issue here is if everybody has the ability, if the government puts the infrastructure and the atmosphere to ensure that if there is job for our Kenyans, there is a good environment to do business, the taxes that are there are not punitive, I think we will have a sober citizen. We will have a sober Kenyan and we'll have a great country. Yeah.
It also seems pretty difficult that I think across board, and this is the thing, because the burden of the responsibility to move a nation forward is actually not on government.
Yep.
It's on the people. But then we still can't seem to pinpoint that thing, save a revolution on the streets, that's actually going to turn the hands of time. And so we keep saying, well, the citizen needs to do their part, needs to be more engaged, needs to be more knowledgeable, needs to be okay. But I'm struggling sometimes, and I say, okay, how exactly? Because you can sit here and you can go and vote. People are afraid to go vote because they say their vote will be stolen. They say engage your MP. Well, they're never there. They say, okay, talk to your MP. I've sent letters, they don't answer. All right, I've gone to rallies and I've tried to speak. I've been, brought to the ground by the security. So what and how is this thing that citizens then must get involved beyond conversations that we have, beyond trying to move the needle? And if we're saying that revolution is too violent, what are people supposed to do? Because it might be interesting to note that the progressive societies that we see today, none of them established as progressive societies without a preceding bloody conflict to push the status quo of the day out of the way and to then establish tenets and the foundation upon which they were able to build. They put systems in place, but it was uncomfortable, it was painful.
I want to caution the political class that as much as we have all these challenges, it's not business as usual with Kenyans. Because we have now an informed citizenry, and you've seen them coming out to agitate for their rights. One, we've seen the president of Kenya, His Excellency William Ruto, moving around the country on the issue of the Nyota. We started with the bottom-up. We went to the Hustler Fund.
Empowerment.
We were told that there were several billions that were lost through the Hustler Fund. Now we have the Nyota. All these are reactions to an informed citizen. All these are attempts to try to kutuliza damu of the movement of the Gen Zs. They are not well thought, in my own opinion, government policies. They are not planned to transform the young people. They are plans to cool them down so that now time can pass and we go to the next election. What we need to do as a citizen, we have a basic structure of government. We have the executive. Let the executive do their job. We have the legislators. Let them do their job. We have the judiciary. Let them do their job. When we see legislators are more executive than the executive, then there is no proper separation of power. We see our MPs, an MP speaking like a CS, and a CS speaking like he's the MP. And what I told you is the lack of the constitutionalism. Let's just obey and follow our constitution. I think we will be able to have a better country. For example, The Mama Mboga, they need a light. I was moving around in Kajiado, and most of the sokos, the lights are not working. Why do you have to put an electric floodlight? Well, we have solar that is free. You don't need to be paying for this electricity. It's common sense. That's not happening. So I think we need now to live about this issue of why do you build houses for people who can decide which kind of house you want? Just ensure that the economy is working. Just ensure that we have the right policy. The people who qualify for jobs are given the work, and Kenyans are going to work their way out. And government is not there to do business. We've seen government now looking like they want to do everything. No. It is the responsibility of Kenyans to advance their own country. And we should not make politics our currency. Speaking politics during the day, just be part of it. I was in the US. I was privileged to be in the US when the current president was shot, Donald Trump. And my friend asked me, we go for dinner. I told him, no, we can't go. The presidential candidate has been shot. And you know what he told me? That is their thing. This is ours. So politics does not affect their day-to-day activities. But sadly in Kenya, if two politicians don't say hi to each other, it can determine whether we will come to work today, whether children will go to school tomorrow. It's very sad. It is very sad, unfortunate.
Indeed.
Yes.
That's where we are. All right. Thank you for being here this morning. To open up and to shed light on some of these things, very important. Dr. Kanchori Daniel has been here with us this morning. Is it you at the center of it, people? If not, perhaps we need to do something about it. Asante sana. Good morning. It's 8 a.m.
The latest news from around the world. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.